I mean, through your life, of course, your grandma was a great support and an outlet for you as well, of course, in all you were going through. And but you did find it difficult at one particular point in your Christian life. Tell us what that was like going through that time when you say you fell away and and then
Yeah.
your grand passed away and things like that. Tell us a little bit about that bit.
I think at that time in my life, I don't think I was strong enough, if that makes sense. I think I was still quite young in my faith. I still had a sandy foundation. It wasn't quite strong. I didn't have the network of people to lean on that when bad stuff happens, I could go to and chew it over and have some outlets. I didn't have my own coping mechanisms. So when all that bad stuff happened in the space of like 6 months of going from being in working, about to get married, to grandmother's dead, wife's having an affair, you're unemployed and in debt, living in a box room, that was a very intense period. And I immediately reverted back to my old habits because I hadn't built any new ones in yet. Now I would handle that completely differently. To share a very short story, myself and my wife, just before we had Isabella, we actually went through a miscarriage. And both of our responses to that was to worship. It wasn't to get stuck into the negative emotions of that. There was just this song, "The Blessing." It was viral at the time, but it was definitely our anthem. And I'll sing a song, a melody, "In the Face of My Enemies." I was singing that every single night, and then lo and behold, I'm at a giant men's conference, and Graham Kendrick's leading worship, and he's leading us in "The Blessing," and we're singing "I Raise a Hallelujah" in the presence of my enemies, and we're roaring, and my phone goes off, and it's my wife sending me a positive pregnancy test.
Wow.
As I'm singing the song that was our anthem through our miscarriage. Now I can look at that and go, okay, God was definitely in that, and he will be in everything else that comes after. So my strength and my confidence is not in myself. It is the one who is above and in and around and through everything else. And it is in Jesus, and it is in him that I find my strength. So I know I'm not going to fall away again, because I'm not leaning on little old Gaz Thompson, I'm leaning on Jesus, who is the rock of my life and of my family.
And of course, just to ask you that question, of course, how important is it to have support? Because you mentioned Dave, of course. Dave was really a rock for you. So how important is for people who come to know Jesus to have that structure and support in their life?
Oh, I think it's integral, definitely. I think it's I often say to our guys that their discipleship is their responsibility. It's not up to me. It's not up to the church. It's not up to anybody but them. And if they want to do it, they should get around other guys who also want to do it. We have a men's mental health group that we have at our church that meets in the ring. We sit in a circle and we wrestle with what we've got going on. And so much stuff comes out.
Literally wrestling, or just wrestling in your mind?
we talk it out. I wouldn't want to wrestle some of those guys. We get some big burly blokes into our men's group, but they open up and they share. And I think particularly for men, that is an issue that we struggle with. I would rather not have to go to the pub and sink a few beers to then be able to have those conversations. I want it to be normal for blokes to be able to pick up the phone or go to a group or hang out with their mate and have those conversations. So I would say every Christian needs to have other Christians around them to pray for them, to give advice, those that have been through stuff, those that can relate, or even those that can just come around with a meal and just drop a meal off. And this is what's so great about the church, is that the community of people that you then belong to, they've got your back and they will help you out and they are there for you. And if you lean on them, those relationships can become incredibly special and incredibly deep. And the unity of the church and the community of believers is really important, particularly for younger Christians. Because without Dave taking that on his back to come and kick my door in, I might not be here right now.
Yeah. And when you told the story, or when you were working for a CEX, and you could feel the tension even in the story that you were telling when you met your abuser. And you said that for you was that moment when you were released, basically, from that pain and suffering.
Mm.
Have you ever met the person since?
So yes, I met him shortly after, about
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 weeks after his mum passed away, and there was a family funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to it out of respect, and also to kind of check in myself. Did I really mean it? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I saw he was sat in the corner on his own. The whole family had kind of left him alone and done nothing with him. And I bought a beer and I sat with him and we had a discussion. And I told him I meant what I said. What's going on with you? And his life had been a complete train wreck. He'd got out of prison. He'd been in and out. He'd been abusing drugs, broken relationships, theft, stealing, all this stuff. And I honestly tried to help him. I added him on Facebook. We talked a bit. I tried to help him out. He ghosted me a couple of times. And then I didn't speak to him again. And it was only when the BBC were with us that they were kind of verifying my story and checking it, because they didn't want to put stuff on TV that was potentially untrue.
Mm-hmm.
And they had they found the police reports that my mum had, and she shared with them at the time that he passed away in 2021 at some point. She didn't tell me. She kind of kept that to herself, which I have mixed feelings over, to be honest. I kind of would have liked to have been there, I think. I don't know why, but I just kind of wanted to be there. But yeah, no, he'd had a drug overdose and passed away, so he'd never really got his life back on track. And yeah.
Anyway, you moved on. You've got this new wrestling church. Does that mean everybody goes to church has to wrestle?
No, it is a misconception. No, people do think that. No, we only the trained professionals get in the ring.
Right.
What we do is, I kind of mentioned it briefly. We have a couple of bouts where one of the bouts will tell a Bible story or reflect on a theme. To give an example, we had two wrestlers chained together with like a long metal chain, and they could use it on each other and they could fight, but they couldn't get away from each other. And then after the match, I then preached on the theme of being chained down, and the chain was a weapon and they were hurting each other and they couldn't get away. But the only person who can break that chain is Jesus, but you need to give it to him and you need to take it off. And so we use it as a storytelling tool, and we only have the professionals in the ring just to keep everybody safe. But the people who attend, we are primarily 90% non-Christian, and they are hearing the gospel and they are responding, and we're baptizing them, and they're joining Bible study groups, and they're attending other things that the church has going on, or other churches in the city. They're not all coming to the same one, but these are people now who I've been journeying with for the better part of 4 or 5 years now, and they are thriving, and they're sharing Jesus themselves, and they're kind of doing really well, and their families are improving, and I'm like seeing these guys, I'm like cheering them on, like, come on. But yeah, now we baptized 30 people in the space of a year, and I think we've got another 4 or 5 lined up for April. So it's working. Yeah.
Has the BBC documentary helped you in any way?
Yeah, no, it definitely helped with some exposure at the start when it happened. I think it put us on the map a bit. We got quite a few bookings, some of the churches on the back of it. It definitely propelled me into connecting with other people to see what we can do to grow it, because I connected with Roy Crown and the Gospel Entrepreneurs Program with him, and we're now kind of looking at a point where we've done it in Bradford, we've done it in Shipley. I think we have a model and we could probably do it elsewhere in the country. So we're kind of looking for partner churches now to be like, look, can we make this happen where you are? Because there's wrestling fans all over the country. They sold out Wembley with 93,000 people last summer. And all those people didn't hear about Jesus. So they'll come to a wrestling show if you put one on in your town, and let's tell them about Jesus. So Kingdom Wrestling is the charity. We became a registered charity this time last year. And in that time, we've spread into schools. We're doing work with kids at risk of exclusion. We've got like toddlers coming to classes, teens coming to classes, men's mental health group. And then, like I said, the last few weeks we were in the Times, and that really propelled us.
Wow.
And we've been on pretty much anything and everything that I could think of in the last 3 weeks. Like I was up at 5 a.m. for Good Morning Britain to be like live on TV, sharing the gospel, and then Australian TV, same time, 5 a.m. to kind of be 5 p.m. for them. And it's just kind of blown up. This is incredible.
To be politically correct here, are there any ladies involved in the wrestling? Do they have a ladies team or anything like that?
Yeah, we've got a whole women's division. Yeah, so
Wow.
we've got about 9 or 10 ladies on our roster, and we have a women's title belt that they all fight over, and we've got a men's title belt that they all fight over. And if you do check out the Times article, you'll see Kiara, who's on there. She's a Catholic, and she's been so blessed by what we do, because she's now doing what I started doing. So she told me that because we all prayed together as a team before the event, she felt like, oh, this is great, I can pray. That's never happened to her at a wrestling show before.
Mm-hmm.
And then she then offered to pray with her opponent at another wrestling show, because a lot of our talent that we use, they wrestle all over the country at different times and different weekends. So I see them so I still wrestle as well, not just at our events, but I tour too still. And we'll get together and we'll pray in a little huddle before the show. But she was saying that she's now praying with her opponents because we did it at our shows, and she's like felt completely released by that, and is sharing her faith now as well. So yeah, we got a whole women's division, which is great. And my daughters, I tell you, I'm gonna have they're little bruises already. Oh yeah, they'll dive on me off the sofa and everything. They'll be future women champions before we know it.
So in the wrestling and all that, what was your best moment or trophy or whatever that you won? What was your best moment in wrestling?
I think my best moments have been quite a few recently, where we've done a wrestling church and we've done a really tricky kind of performance that you were kind of unsure would it land right or not. And then when I've done the preach afterwards, everybody's clicked with it and responded. I think they've been the best moments. It's not been the championships. It's not been the main event battles that have gone 20, 30 minutes. It's been those moments where I've seen hands go up to respond at a wrestling church event, and I've been in the match and we kind of made it happen the way we wanted to, and it's all hit the way we want it to. Those have been quite special. Yeah.
I must go to one of these shows and maybe challenging one of these days.
If you want to, George, if you want to, I'll definitely pray for your healing afterwards.
Okay. Well, it's been fantastic speaking to you again, Gareth, and what a fantastic story. Now, if somebody wanted to contribute to your charity, how would they do that?
So if you just go to our website, kingdomwrestling.org, we are on all the social media channels as well. Just search for Kingdom Wrestling. You'll find us. We do have a donate page on there. We have businesses can sponsor us if they want to, or they can give through stewardship, a regular monthly gift or a one-off gift. They can do that as well. We have merch that we sell. So if somebody wants to buy a cool looking T-shirt, they can, and that goes towards what we do. Or if a church wants to book us and they want to go, hey, let's get some wrestling in and share the gospel, hit us up, get in touch, and we can make that happen as well.
Any interest from the USA yet in your wrestling?
You know, we had a potential opportunity in Chicago, but I was just struggling to find some wrestlers local. But hey, you never know what might happen. I mean, we've been in Australian TV, we've been French, German, Japanese TV. Like, God could do anything with this. And hey, if we go stateside, we go stateside. I'd be happy to come over and drop some elbows and share the gospel.
We're even now on Life Stories TV, so there you go.
Yeah.
So, Gareth, you've made lots of decisions in your life, some good ones and some bad ones. But for you, what was the best decision you ever made?
I would say the best decision I ever made was not the first time of saying yes to Jesus, but the second time when I really, truly meant it. I think the first time I'm figuring it out, but it was the second one where I prayed that prayer And it happened the following day, and I was confronted, and I felt it, and I was in the moment, and I was like, this is it. That was the biggest decision I've ever made, because I could have made an excuse and walked away from that. But I just went straight in, and I made a move towards it. And I pray that there are people watching this right now who have that feeling, and that they make that decision too, because it will be the best decision you ever make. And you will be able to look back 10 years, 15 years from now and go, I was watching this live stream with this wrestler called Gaz, who told me his story, and now I'm doing this. Because God will use you, and he will use your talents and your skills and your loves and your passions, because what I used to escape stuff in my life, he's now using to release stuff in my life. And that is what God does. And that's the best decision I've ever made.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us here at Life Stories Worldwide. Fantastic story. And with that, I'm going to bring Alan back in.
Thank you, George, so much. And Gareth, it was great hearing your story, and wonderful to hear the what you're doing now and reaching people through this ministry. It's just tremendous work you're doing. Pray God will continue to bless you and use you in that work. Go on, brother. Keep going. Wonderful.
Thank you, brother.
So it's been, and do arrange to have a go with George. I'd love to see you have a go with George. Yeah, I really want to see that.
Oh,
yeah,
let's make it happen.
yeah, do that. But thank you. So thank you all for watching today. Also, go to our website, Life Stories Worldwide. There you can watch stories from previous Mondays, many wonderful stories. And don't forget to click the like button and the subscription button. It won't cost you anything, but it will help to further these messages. So also, if you want to listen to these stories, you can listen to them if you go to Spotify and look for Life Stories Worldwide. You can listen to them while you're driving, while you're walking. So thank you for being with us. May you have a wonderful Christmas time. May you know the joy of Jesus filling your heart and the peace of God that passes all human understanding. Bye, everyone.